Okay, let me step in the scene. Threw the cap aside. I've had some shadow issues. People talk about working on your shadow self, okay? I've been working on my shadow cap. Greetings, everyone. I want to share some thoughts. I've been reading some great books. Always reading something, and they're great in terms of what they share or what they allow me or how they allow me to process information. And this subject is disclosure. Disclosure is a topic, big topic. Well, maybe even a bigger topic as things are coming up, because people are thinking about whether we're alone in the universe. Even in the idea, in asking the question, it presumes or implies that there's evidence to suggest that there's no other intelligent life in all of the universe, so to speak. As huge as things are, and somehow we have nurtured a point of view that makes it rational to think that we're the only intelligent species that exists. Now, I would dare say no one actually believes that. But on the other hand, the proof of intelligence is actually in the intelligence of one's actions and deeds. It's not so much of whether intelligent thinking is possible, because intelligent thinking is certainly possible. All you got to do is look at the things that are being done today and ask yourself, are there better ways that these things can be done? And then sometimes you start finding and discovering that there are people who have seen and have identified and articulated better ways, and you see what tends to consistently or has consistently happened to them, where all of a sudden there's a voice and then there's not a voice, or there's a voice, I'll even say a reason, and actually what's happened has been drowned out by a whole bunch of irrational voices. But they've been unified in their irrationality. Does this sound familiar? Can you recall or recount anything or any events or circumstances that have happened lately that actually play that out, or where you see that played out? So it's not whether intelligent thought is possible. It's not even a question of whether all that is known is all that is knowable. I think I would likely get agreement that we don't know it all. There are things that we don't know, we don't understand, we can't explain, etc. Therefore, all knowledge is, in terms of known knowledge, doesn't reflect all knowledge that is knowable. There's more to know. Even though some people have been inclined to want to close patent offices and other things as some kind of indication that they or their institution or their way of thinking represents all that is worth knowing, I guess. If we can acknowledge that all that is knowable is not known, then how can we ever allow any one of us, any small number of us, try to presume that they know more about what needs to be done to resolve things, to the point that there's no other question, and in fact there's even no ability to have a different thought about it, or share a different thought. Just asking the question. Well, one thing that has become evident to me, I talked about disclosure, I haven't forgotten that. In fact, the disclosing, that is really, I feel, necessary, is coming to a place of understanding, not so much that we're talking in terms of intelligent life in the universe and talking about what we think of as alien life and ETs and stuff like that. Not that they don't exist. I'm nothing about that whatsoever. The point is coming to a place of fundamental understanding of the immortal nature of you and myself. We are each immortal beings who express themselves through a form that we refer to here in this particular density as physical. These forms allow us to interact with each other on this particular channel and in this particular bandwidth of energy, of frequency, of broadcasting, you could even say. But they don't constitute who we are. They don't constitute what we are, for that matter. When we are done with this, we pull out, and these forms become food for something else. Nature takes it down, breaks it down naturally, not before we leave, except if we have not taken care of it well enough to give it the things that it needs to take care of itself. This form is pleomorphic. This form has inherent intelligence within it. And all the life that this form supports, because people will say, well, there's more biological life and bacterial life in the form or cells in our body than there are human cells. And yet, that's thought to be almost bad. But that biology that's in this form, they are doing things. They are microscopic representations of intelligent life that we, in our magnificence or our magnificent ignorance, have presumed are not essential. Even to the point that we would make policies, we'd make practices that would involve killing off mass quantities of that biological life, or creating an environment that is not conducive to their optimal function. Because life is pleomorphic, then it can change and adapt. You know, they talk about what's called drug-resistant bacteria. Ooh, and they're like the uber bugs, and they are like, oh, they keep trying to come up with something that will knock them down, and guess what? They keep just moving here, and they keep moving there, and they keep shifting and changing, and they're unaffected by it. Why? Because they are intelligent. Also because they are life, and they are pleomorphic. You change the environment, you restore the environment to its optimal balance, and you'll find that bacteria will change. The life, they will change. Their behaviors will change. The stresses that they are presently under will go away. Function will restore. And why is it that these factors that I'm describing right now are not what we're taught? Why is it not part of our education so that we understand these things? We know. You're listening to people who are making a living off the continuation of you doing things the way you've been doing them. And that also includes presuming the weakness of our form, but it's also maintaining the weakness of our minds, the weakness of our regard for ourselves as well as for each other. So I just did a little video talking about my love proclamations, to begin to make a conscious decision to add and include love in everything that you do, in all your thoughts. Love included anywhere and everywhere will improve all things in all times. And so that's one part of it, but it also turns out that the evidence exists, large amounts of evidence of a continuation of life after the form is done, after we're done with the form. That's really kind of the point. I'm just reading a couple of books. I've just finished one, I'm starting another one, One of them is called The Seven Purposes by Margaret Cameron, published in 1918. Second book is called, Our Unseen Guest. And this is by Finley. And the book was published originally in 1920. And they are both about communicating with beings, people. I won't even just say beings. You and I are a being, and therefore these were beings who were present. They were part of families. They had physical forms. And for different reasons, various reasons, they were separated from their form, and they were presumed or considered to be what's called dead. However, they were not. The beings continue to be. The being continued to exist, continued to have a stable expression of consciousness, a stable expression of existence, of love, of consideration, of knowledge. They have and maintain a stable expression of all those things. The only thing that they do not express is a physical form as we presently see them. But they are clearly the life that makes the form that we do acknowledge work and actually meaningful. The things that are meaningful are the relationships that we maintain between us. And how would it be different if you knew, not if, when you knew that you persist, that you exist, that you continue when your form is done or when you're done with your form. Whether you broke it, whether you abused it, or whether you lived just a long life of activity, of accomplishment, of joy and happiness, but at some point in time, you were either ready to get another one or do it someplace else. Do you think that that vast, vast cosmos that we've been able to discern as existing might have other places that we can be, that we can experience? All that infinite variety and possibility, and you think that there's only one life and it's associated with this form, and when this form is done, that's it, and you even question your existence? Some people are thinking, oh, well, there's no continuation, or you're going to go to a retirement home and sit on the right hand of God or right hand side of God, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people sitting on the right hand side, and it's like a wasteland of solitude and nothing on the left hand side. Do you think it works that way? Some people do, and they want you to think the same way. So disclosure is there. The books that I just mentioned were published again in the first part of the 20th century, 1918 and 1920 respectively. There's another book that I have mentioned from time to time. The title is There Is No Death. It's by Florence Marryat, published in 1891. And you know something? Again, 30 years of chronicles, of experiences of people communicating with, seeking communication from or with people that they loved. People whose love were undying, if you will. And ultimately, when we can get to a place where we realize the continuum, it may be something as mundane as, someone don't know where the keys to so-and-so was after the person left, or in this day and age, they may not know the password to get into the computer or to this, that, and the other. But you know something? To know that that is possible, it also, by knowing that, it starts to, fear levels certainly start going down associated with this thing about death. I think the willingness to start living grows up, for one thing. It also starts to encourage people to care more about your relationships, to be more honest about who you are today and about who you choose to be, about also allowing people to become just that when in terms of parenting. It's not so much that this is the only life, but when a person comes into this, really encouraging them, allowing them to be. And in addition to that, it also means saying no to activities that you know, that your heart tells you, etc., are not in your best interest, not in the best interest of your children. You can't simply just say, I've got to do this because someone told me to do it, especially when who the people are telling you that have their own agendas, and they're really, really clearly seen. Our justice system, so to speak, not about truth. It's about opinion. Where did truth go? Where did love go? When we start putting those things back into the equation, we start changing things. And it begins with each person in this here and in this now. You don't have to wait for someone to tell you that the aliens are out there. The spirits are present now. The beings, the unseen ones, are connected to us. We never lose that connection. Some of them move on to other planes. But there is a continuum of experience. There's a continuum of involvement. Even after beings leave or are done with, or in some kind of way have dissociated with the form that we used to know them as. I had just 2 nights ago, I had a really cool little dream sequence wherein I was with my mom. She left this form, or her form, I think in 2020, right after the 2020s began in January. And this is 2 days ago, it's 3 years later now in this case, as far as me talking at this moment. But we were together, and I noticed, yeah, there's Mom, and it was no big deal between us. And guess what we were doing? We were shopping. We were hanging out, doing stuff together. When you know that life is a continuum, you are able to live a fuller life than if you are thinking that this is all that there is, and we're in a three-dimensional corner that we've painted ourselves in. We're not just three-dimensional. All the things that actually matter as far as the continuum of life is concerned are beyond that, and we are there too. So those are my thoughts. Once I get started, I just kind of go, but I wanted to share those because these are the disclosures. The ET disclosures or proponents of it aren't talking about this side. And as I see it, at least, until you complete that circle, until you start to put together yourself as a multidimensional being, already, always has been, always will be, one that always exists on some level and always has. Yes, this form just started for this little journey, but that's not the whole of what's possible. And the other thing is to start to realize, in the same way that there is an unseen part. You know, we talk about ghosts and other things, but it always tends to be in a macabre, fear-oriented point of view. I used to wonder about that. But the fact of the matter is, that is a low-level consciousness, all right? And it's interesting, people make a whole amount of profit around that, and yet on the other hand, the perception is that, oh, the other thing is we have to be holy, we have to be spiritual, we have to act a certain way. No, the thing you need to do, one is be loving, period. Be honest with yourself, and let there be alignment in the things that you do. We have a lot of habits that we've passed on in that thinking, that mindset of having to act certain ways which are not genuine. We're acting because we don't want to curry the disfavor of someone because of, oh, and what? Someone who is not being loving. So, those are some thoughts for now. I've said enough. Thank you for watching and listening and considering. Till next time, peace, be well, and be loving, prosperous. I love you all. Oh, infinite ones.